Hello and welcome back to our series on how to create your own teaching website. Today in our video we'll be focusing on Google Forms and what you can do with this very powerful free app that Google has put out. Unlike some of the previous Google apps we've used, this one I don't know has a parallel in Microsoft Office. Google Forms is essentially creating an online questionnaire that students or other teachers or other people, whatever you like, can come and fill out, and then you get copies of their answers. So there's lots of ways you could use this in your teaching website. If you wanted to make tests in Google Forms and have the students take their tests online, that's one way you could do this. I'm going to show you how we can actually use it as a tool for completing lessons, and we will write a lesson today using Google Forms as the centerpiece of our lesson. Okay. So I'm just going to start by going to my Google Drive, and I'm going to make a physics lesson. I've actually used this lesson before, so you're going to see a slightly more developed lesson than some of the ones I've posted before, where we were making them up as we went along. So I'm going to create a form. The form I'm going to use, I'll actually show you later, the finished version, but I'm going to show you how to create your own. So we go here to New, and we're going to make a new Google form. And it comes up just like so. We can title it, and I already know the lesson I'm going to use is going to be a pendulum lesson, so I'll go ahead and title it Pendulum. And you can put whatever questions you like in here. Right now it's set to multiple choice, so I could type the question in here. How does, or let's see, we could ask a numerical question such as, what is the length of a pendulum with period equal to 1 second? And for my multiple choice options, I could make 2 seconds one of the options. I could make 4 seconds, and I can keep adding stuff down here if I want. Obviously neither of those, I think. Oh, seconds, haha, these should be 2 meters if I'm being a really good physicist. I don't think either of those is the correct answer. Anyway, and then I could go on and I could add another question down here. Oh, that's another option. Add another question here. So I could make question 2 down here, etc., etc. And once I've finished with this form, if I want, I can add pictures. So if I had a picture of a pendulum and I wanted to say, look at the picture, answer the question based on the picture, I could do that. I can add videos in here. You could put a video clip and then have a bunch of questions based on the video clip. All right. So all kinds of options here. All right. And then you make your form, and when it's done, here's the one I made. Completed one. I had the pendulum, which was the title, and I added a picture of several pendula hanging. We probably know this more famously as a Newton's cradle. And I had a few instructions here that I put. And as you scroll down, you're going to see I've had, for this particular lesson, the students will be in teams, and so in order to know who answered the form, I'm going to need them to put their initials of their team members. That way I know who to get credit for it. And there were 2 parts to this lab. There was a where they tested the period of the pendulum based on a length that did not change, but they changed the amount of mass hanging from it. And then they tested separately where they changed the length of the pendulum and then kept the mass constant. And so for each one they entered data, period, and mass. Okay, that was the whole form right there. Now the nice thing about Google Forms, so someone can come in and let's say, whoops, since this, that's not what I want. So let's say, the nice thing about Google Forms is that you can see some people have already responded to this. Some people have, in fact, 150 people have gone in and put their data into this form because this is something I actually used in my classes, and we can view their responses. So the students went through this lab, and some of them measured mass versus period of pendulum, and some of them measured length versus period of pendulum, and it shows the initials of the team members that did this. It shows what time they entered it in, and it comes right up. So every time you generate a Google form, you also generate a spreadsheet where it tabulates their responses, and it shows you what time they entered their response and what they answered for each question. Now for my questions, my first question was what is their team name and their team member's name. The second question was what was the mass of the pendulum. The third was what is the period. And the fourth and fifth were the length and the period. And I just put a new question on there, which I don't think I intended to. No, I don't see it. Okay. So this is a great way to look through and see what did everybody answer on part C. How many people missed question C? And in fact, Google Forms has that functionality as well. So if you go to responses, you can see a summary of the responses. Okay? And you can see here what people are answering for the mass. If I scroll through this, this is all the different masses that people entered. What are people entering for the period? Okay? What are people entering for the length, etc. All right? So that's kind of neat. Get rid of that. If you wanted to, now, I'm going to show you the lesson itself, the full lesson. And the full lesson looked like this. And I'm going to copy it over so that we have it on the How to Create Your Website website. So this was a whole lab about using and understanding pendulums. So let's create the lesson. I'm going to put in our sample lesson. We have a learning target. And for this lesson, the learning target is that students will understand the factors that affect the period of a pendulum. We also have an artifact, something that they're going to use to show that they learned this, and you already saw it, but in this case, the artifact is that students will analyze data reported on Google Forms to create a graph of period versus length for a pendulum. And we saw that already. And by the way, one of the nice things about this Google form is that when you got to the answers, the students have access to this as well. They can see the answers that they've been putting in, and all they have to do is drag and go up here, insert chart, and they can graph their data right on the spreadsheet for themselves if they like. And so they can. This is a combination of using Google Forms and Google Sheets. So all the stuff we talked about last time in the Google Sheets section about how to use this just like an Excel spreadsheet, now they're entering their data as a class and they're getting the data from everybody else. So if they wanted, they could use the whole class's data and try to make a graph, and it becomes this huge collaboration. So you have 60 students worth of data as opposed to, you know, the 5 people who are in your group or the 7 people who are in your group. And you get much better graphs and things that way. Also, you get to see if there's outliers. If one group perhaps did their measurements incorrectly, there's a metacognitive piece where they see, uh-oh, we're not on the curve. Let's go back and redo our lab data. So that's good stuff. All right, so that was our learning target and our artifact. I'm going to paste in this section here. Okay. And we'll save that. Now, you'll notice when I tried to paste the form, but it didn't paste. And that is something that will happen. So what I'm going to go through here and do is I'm going to delete this right here. And I'm just going to insert the form from my Google Drive. So I'm going to go to Drive, Form, Pendulum, select. I'm not going to put the width in. I like leaving the width blank so that it fills the spot. Save. Okay, and so now when the students go to see this page and I say this is our lesson for the day, it has the abstract, it has the questions on here, it shows what a pendulum looks like. This is the actual pendulum they're using, and then this is something with variables labeled on it. And then the form shows up right on the web page, so the students can go in and enter their data right on that web page. Great. And then down here, there's a link, if I click it, to the analysis page. Okay, so that's a fairly self-contained lesson using Google Forms. And I'm sure you're going to have lots of different ways that you could incorporate Google Forms onto your website. Okay, hope you enjoyed this one.